ducked off low key, yeah, you know me. Kickin' with Tyree, hit it 3 like Kyrie.
Yeah. What inspired the story? Was it life experience or was it something that just sparked you and came to your head?
Yeah, I think it's two things. First, earlier you said that you'd watched it in North Carolina, which is funny because I was daydreaming about a feature over the pandemic, and that's what consumed my time. I started writing this much longer epic, and it was about this college student named Gerard who was at this university that I made up, this elite institution in North Carolina, close to the beach. So really, in my mind, that's where it really takes place. But on a personal note, I grew up doing ballet pre-professionally, and I was injured my senior year. I had to get a surgery on my ankle, and I took like me out for 3 months, and I had to recover. But then I just couldn't dance anymore, so I had to change career paths. I wasn't thinking of going to college because it was the year that all of us were auditioning for ballet companies. And so I had this hard reset where my whole life I had done one thing like 8 hours a day. And then that was just like not my identity anymore, which ultimately was very freeing. But like that was a hard reset for me. And so I think with Gerard, I was thinking about this kid who is undergoing, he's taking on so much change in his life. He's this pre-Olympic diver who goes to this elite institution that's really his only reason to be there. And then he's got this shoulder surgery, and he doesn't know what's up and what's down and, where to go from there. Pair that with the fact that his mom just passed away and they never really spoke emotionally in their house, and I have very loving parents, but my family they're all intellectuals and in academia. So it's hard to know when you actually are thinking something, so you're expressing it. Or I shouldn't say that. You're thinking it and you express it, but like if what you really feel is being expressed, because it's easy to hide behind words and kind of, mistranslate what you're
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah, I definitely understand that. It's very easy to kind of get your words twisted in a way. So you
Yeah.
got to be very careful of
Yeah.
what you say. You got to be extremely careful. You talk about this character dealing with grief and also dealing with trying to tread new waters and who he is as a person. And how did you how did you come to terms that it was going to be at dinner or at a study date? How did you think? How did you come up with that premise?
I think that like, I mean, first, a diner is a special place, especially at like, 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. whenever they're meeting during finals week. It feels like this. I had a diner on campus when I was in school, and it just feels like this place where you exist in like a separate little world. You know what I mean? Like, um, and I think it's also a place that's really conducive to conversations that you might not have, you know, in other areas. So yeah, to me, that's like kind of what the location was. And I also just saw Gerard through glass. Like to me, he felt like this fish in a bowl. So when I saw that diner on the corner, especially like kind of perched on a little hill, it just felt like this is a perfect place that we can kind of like um
Look-
pin on him.
Yeah, and looking, through that glass and through the
Yeah.
glass of the diner, and I'm starting to get where you're coming from. When it comes to casting, I feel like these two are chemistry wise very well balanced.
Yeah.
How did you come upon choosing those two as the one?
I couldn't be luckier. I mean, um, I talked about like developing this feature over the pandemic. I had just seen When They See Us, and I saw Asante in that. And because I'm like by myself during the pandemic, I was like, oh, I can dream. So I was like, let me write this with Asante in mind, knowing that we'll never meet, and I didn't know him. And then 4 years later, I had joined this acting class in Los Angeles, and Asante walked in, and I was like, first, what are you doing here? Second, no way. Like I called my friend who knew about the project too, and she was like, "You've got to like say something." So I went up to him after a couple of months and asked if he'd be interested in adapting it into a short. And he read the script for the short and was super interested in it. And then at the same time, Malia Piles came into our section, and after her first scene, she was kind of sparring with the teacher, not in a confrontational way, but just like really trying to investigate what he was saying. And I was just like, this is Chloe. This is it. And so they got together in our first rehearsals. It was just like serendipity. You know, you can't plan that. Yeah.
So with this being like a proof of concept for the feature, where are you in making that, or are you in the process of making it right now?
Yeah, I mean, proof of concept, yes. But to me, I took a scene that I thought I could make a short from that was in the feature. It was like 2 or 3 pages. And then I kind of made this its own project. So I expanded the themes and the DNA of that 3-page scene, knowing all the backstory that I have for Gerard and all the kind of chords that I was interested in investigating as a writer. And so I expanded it to like 16 pages. And then ultimately we cut it down to 12 minutes that you see. So I'm developing it. I'm finishing writing it right now. And that's definitely the first thing I want to do when this all ends is, you know, dive all into that. But it takes the same characters. It centers around Gerard. Chloe's a main part of his story. But the central theme is the same about this kid who arrives at this institution, having everything taken away from him, and a house that didn't talk about love or emotions or anything. And so the movie is about him figuring out if and how he can crack open and really like feel and participate in the world in a very vivid way. Because I think he feels like he's an observer of life, but not actually enjoying any of the the colors that other people talk about.
So what interested you in that section of, kind of peeling back the layers of what, masculinity is and what it means to open up to people? Because in the film, he is reluctant for a long time throughout the film to even give her, that bit of him.
I think, I think I chose the section subconsciously because it's the moment. It's a real moment of change and decision for him. You know, he's been removed his whole life. He's been pretty disassociated his whole life. He's been a diver and competing and just judged on performance. But he has this intense desire to feel. And I don't think he's aware, like, what the disconnect is or what his issue is. I think he's in a philosophy class and he hears this girl talk about this rubber band theory. And it's just a moment that what he feels is articulated into words for the first time. And so he doesn't really know why he's drawn to this girl, but he knows he has to ask her out. I don't know if it's a date or what. And he's just like fumbling and really like, just kind of like letting his life go by again. She's just not having it. And if you're not going to participate, I'm going to leave. And so it's that moment that I was interested in feeling, where you're like, the camera's close on him and you see him like be like, oh wait, my safeguards aren't working anymore. This isn't working for this relationship. And that's when we break through their glass and we get inside. And then we see this 18-year-old boy have to figure out, like, how do I express myself? What's actually going on inside,
How did you come upon the name for this short? I know your feature probably has a different name. How did you come upon the name you're trying to say, "You Love Me"?
I mean, first it's a line from the film. Because Gerard says you're trying to say love me, but can't find the words. And I think he's using even that line as a distraction, like a little bit of flirtation to get away from what he's feeling. But I think it's really about his mom. I think his mom passed away and he honestly doesn't know how she felt about him. You know, if she had the words and she could come back and like say it, I don't think he knows what his relationship with his mom was. So that to me, that's like the thematic core of the film. But now saying the title a lot, I'm like, maybe I should have chosen a shorter title.
It's a tongue twister at times, but
Yeah.
I get this is a very relatable film because so many athletes go to college and never play that sport again, and they've played that sport their entire life, you know, and then they have to discover who they are beyond that sport, beyond, you know, who they were in high school. And with becoming an adult, your life comes at you fast, you know, and you got to figure out who you are beyond school, work, family. And I feel like this kind of starts that conversation and creates the dialogue of, okay, who am I as I'm growing into an adult, and how can I, you know, set myself on the right path? But also, how how can I be closer to my parents? How can I, you know, find the words to speak to them that I've always wanted to speak to them?
Yeah. I think
that's what.
exactly
Oh,
right.
sorry.
No, that's it. Yeah, I feel the same way.
Yeah, and that's what I got after watching it the first time. And if you could describe this film in one philosophical question, what would that question be? Philosophical.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
I think it's probably this chicken and the egg question that they're having in the film about like language or emotion. You know, like, do you feel something and therefore you develop the language to articulate it because you have such a big need and you come up with a new word, you know, or you seek that word out? Or does someone say something to you and you hear that and it's a new concept and therefore that unlocks something in you that you didn't actually know how to describe before? And I think that both are true, but especially it's almost like an argument for a liberal arts education, like, or watching movies or listening to music or whatever. Cause like, you know, she said something in class that unlocked something in him and his life was never the same after that. He had a new, you know, a new shade to see the world through. And I think that's what you just said about, you know, basically coming of age and going to college and figuring out who you're going to be. I'm so interested in coming of age stories and you know, obviously looking at like character portraits, and I just love times where like you know that you're never going to be the same again, you know.
Mm-hmm. For you, my last question.
Yeah.
How do you want audiences to leave the theater after, or what questions do you want them to have after leaving the theater watching this film?
I mean, I feel like when I see a story that really resonates with me, there's always a moment after the credits or after I watch a play or finish a book where it's just like I have a deep breath and all of a sudden it's like it just feels true. So I think if people feel like it's true and they connect with it, that for me is enough. And then like a secondary ask would be kind of a desire to connect with people who you might not think you actually had that much in common with, and you might find like they hold the keys to unlock parts of yourself that help you through, you know, navigate whatever you're going through.
I love that, and that's kind of the beauty of like college, especially because everyone comes from different backgrounds. Everyone especially speaks to their parents differently. That's one thing I learned. I was like, oh, just hearing like, you know, a roommate on the phone with their dad or mom, and I'm like, wow, they let that go. You know, they let that go, and that's I think that's the number one thing with college is just like getting that experience and getting out there. I'm not saying the education isn't the most important part. I think the experience of meeting other people and seeing their culture, seeing how they act, with their families, their friends, and people around them. I think that's the most important part, and you can't
100%.
unlock that unless you open yourself up too. So
Yeah.
yeah. So that's all I have for you today, man.
Thank you so much, Tyree.
Yeah, it's been a day. So I'll see you.
Okay.
Hopefully I'll see you at Tribeca.
Awesome.
Hopefully I can. I'm planning to make the premiere, so
Definitely.
I'll see you there.
Bye.
All right. See you.
All right. Talk later,
Thank
man.
you, Brian.
Ducked off low key, yeah, you know me. Kickin' with Tyree, hit a 3 like Kyrie.